Hawks Coaches Show. We are at Wings, etc. Cape Girardeau next week. We're in Jackson today. So if you are close to Titletown, come on by. We invite you to join us for lunch. If you've never been to Wings in Jackson, you walk in the front door, take a hard right, and we are back in the banquet room. Nice crowd on hand. And don't forget, if you're coming for lunch, they've got their daily half-pound lunch specials that start at just $7.99. And if you're checking out their appetizer lineup, they have their ultimate nachos, their deep-fried pickle chips, and their menu includes a whole lot more than just their award-winning wings. They have freshly made burgers, wraps, subs, quesadillas, entree salads, smoked ribs, and much more. And again, the daily half-pound lunch special is just $7.99. And you can call ahead and have your order waiting for you. You can order online and stop by and pick it up. And now you can actually get wings delivered to your front door by using DoorDash. Just download the DoorDash app and your mobile device, set up your account, take you a couple of minutes, and boom, you can have it delivered to your front door. It's the home of the Red Hawks Coaches Show, Wings, etc., good food and great times. We're going to be talking Red Hawks basketball with Coach Brad Korn. The SEMO baseball team opens its season Friday night under the lights at 23rd-ranked Dallas Baptist. And baseball coach Andy Sawyers is going to join us a little bit later on in this show. So we'll talk round ball, just different types of round ball. Let's welcome in Coach Brad Korn. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing well.
Is this weather ever going to get warm again? I thought we were going to turn a corner here at some point.
Well, it feels warm today compared to what it's been, so we're getting there.
So you're getting ready to go on a long journey here. You got to go all the way, and now with the way the conference is set up, these are the longest bus trips. It's no longer Jacksonville State. I mean, this is Cookeville, and then you've got Morehead State Thursday and Saturday. Do you do anything different when you're getting ready to travel on a long trip like this versus, hey, we're going to Murray, hey, we're going to Edwardsville? These are, Martin, little 2-hour bus trips when, you're talking about 6 hours on the next trip.
No, really nothing different other than maybe just leaving a little bit earlier than we normally would, obviously. So we'll leave at about 2:30, somewhere in that range after practice on Wednesday, just because it is a longer bus ride to kind of get there, get off your feet type of thing. So you don't want to be traveling and getting in at 10 o'clock at night and then try to turn around. And just makes that next Thursday very long. And so we won't do anything any different that way. Really what's different is the day in between. Now with this type of a travel, because they're, I think, 4.5 hours apart maybe, or 4 hours apart from one to the next. So that makes your travel day in between after the game on Friday a little bit different. So that's a little bit of a different challenge logistically. So that's probably the only really change or difference, just coordinating when you're going to have that in between practice time.
And I know it's a different philosophy also. Some coaches on occasion after a game, say in Cookeville, will go ahead and make that drive that night to Morehead State. Other times you just go back to the hotel and then make it a travel day the following day. How much do you kind of think about that and kind of wrestle with what's going to be best for us?
Yeah, more times than not we'll just stay after the game, especially with the doubleheaders and playing at 7:30. You're not going to get done by the time I get done talking, and all that says 10 o'clock. And so we'll just go back to the hotel in Cookeville and make it 2 nights, and because it helps out too. Now you're not trying to have to do late checkouts, or you're getting a half-day rate and the money and all that type of stuff. So it's like you're going to be in a hotel for 2 nights anyway. You might as well just stay 2 in Cookeville and then head to Morehead the next day.
Yeah, I don't think people realize when you are going on a road trip and you've got an evening game, you have to schedule a late checkout in your hotel, because most hotels are either 11 or noon as far as checkout. You've got to pay extra just to stay in the hotel until about 5 o'clock when you go over to the arena for a 7 o'clock game.
Yeah, and so you start talking about budgets and everything else like that go into all these travel plans, and Coach LaDon, our director of operations, does a great job with that, and just trying to talk to these hotels and say, hey, can you work with us? Because a lot of these towns, there only may be one hotel that's decent enough that you want to stay in. So they kind of got you a little bit, and then you're trying to work a deal this way too, because sometimes how many nights are you really going to, Morehead, Kentucky, for instance, on a Wednesday night? Well, that's got to be, our team, we're bringing in X amount of rooms. And so you're always trying to work and find the best possible situation you can, because we don't leave the hotel, like you said, until, 5 o'clock.
Yeah, you look at the OVC towns, you talk about Cookeville, there are a lot of hotels in Cookeville, so you've got your choice. Martin, Tennessee, there's one. You're not going to stay at that little Quality Inn. It's an outdoor entrance type thing. They got the Hampton, and that's it. So it's really different depending on where you're going.
Yeah, and even a year ago, sometimes too, what we'll do is if we can get a day rate. For Martin, for instance, leave the day of the game, but leave in the morning, get to the hotel, then go do a shoot around in that gym, then come back to the hotel, have your normal game day routine of pregame meals. So sometimes we did it a year ago at Martin. We were able to get a day rate, but it was 20 minutes away.
Union City.
Yeah, Union City is where we stayed. So in Evansville a year ago we did that. We went the morning of, got a day rate, so it's half the rate of the hotel. So if we can work that out, or if it makes sense, Evansville's a little bit further of a trip. So, it just kind of all depends. Really, too, Eric, a lot of it is just kind of pulse of team. Each team is different. Each team responds differently. Some teams don't. A year ago we didn't do particularly well on day trips. This year we've done better on day trip as far as playing and performing and all that. So you kind of just always trying to take the temperature, and each team's a little bit different.
And depending on what trip you're at, you also, as a coach, you're not the biggest fan of just kind of slugging around in the hotel room on a day off and everything. Sometimes you plan, okay, hey, let's go to the mall, or let's go do an activity where it's not just you're in the hotel room all day. I know every coach probably has a different philosophy with that.
Yeah, Coach Lusk, who I worked for at Missouri State, he was more of a hotel guy. We just kind of stayed more in hotels and didn't do much. Coach Weber was the complete opposite of that. Even when I was a player and as a coach, we were always doing something. So I fall more on side of let's do something. We did that in California and Texas. We're not really just going to – I don't want to sit around in a hotel. I can't sit around much anyway, just the nature of the business. But I think it gives guys an experience. You don't want to just go and travel and just sit in rooms, and you want to go experience things. For instance, when we went to California, I think half of our team, at least, that the first time they'd been to California, they had never been down to Santa Monica Pier, heard anything about any of that. So now, last night, the Super Bowl, they're panning out and they're showing the pier and all that type of stuff in L.A. And now our guys are like, yeah, I've been there. And so to me, it just gives them an experience, not just for that particular moment, but also for later on in their life. And now they want to go do and experience things with their kids and their families. And so I think you got to be well-rounded and well-cultured. Basketball has taken me all over the world, and to me, it's what it's supposed to be about.
Now, we went to Puerto Vallarta a few years ago, went to Cancun a few years ago. When are we going to get this nice Caribbean tournament?
Well, we can go to – you just asked my wife Valentine's Day today, but we can go to the Caribbean anytime. We're all for that. But, again, dollars have to make sense, and so obviously budgets and all that. Again, I've been so fortunate. I've been to China, Italy, Brazil, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, gosh, I probably keep on going. All the places you've been. So I love to travel. I think again, it's if you can use basketball as a vehicle to see parts of the world, you got to do that. So, but we have to obviously create some funds and again make dollars make sense for us to do that. But I would love to do those types of trips.
And every once in a while, you'll have a team when you're getting on a plane. Every once in a while, you'll have a player who has never flown before, and so you get nerves and where's the vomit bag. And every once in a while, you get somebody who's never been on a plane. Yeah,
I don't know if we had that this year. A lot of guys now with AAU and the way that they travel in their summer ball, a lot of guys have experienced some of that. But I was surprised that. It was about half of our team had never been to California, never been to L.A., never seen any of that stuff. So, again, those are neat experiences, and again, that's what hopefully you're making a player experience, and not only just basketball, but also life and all the other things that you talk about in the recruiting process and everything else like that. Giving guys experiences that they can take with them for the rest of their lives.
And explain to us the challenges of taking an entire entourage, basketball team, managers, assistant coaches, to an airport, security checkpoint, the whole thing. I mean, it's a challenge. And just leaving the parking lot. Don't get on the bus. You got to show me your driver's license before you even get on the bus. We had a kid a few years ago, forgot his license. They didn't check it until they got on the road. Oh, coach, I didn't bring my license. lived in St. Louis. His mother met us at the airport with his birth certificate, and they let him slide. But it's a challenge traveling with a party like that.
And now is more than it used to be. I know when I played, we would forget, guys would forget driver's license, and you could use the media guide and say, hey, this is who this guy is, and they would let you on. Well, you're not really getting away with that anymore. So we got lucky this year. Our 2 trips that we took to Texas and to California, travel was a breeze. We went out of St. Louis both times. And it really was, there was no issues. I was surprised. We walked up because each guy, not only that, you're talking about each guy now with 2 bags, and our trainer, Mr. Nathan Harrison, he's bringing all his gear and everything. So he's not only just that, getting everyone coordinated with IDs, but you got bags, and then if a bag doesn't show up, and all the problems that you can have with travel. But we were lucky this year.
And your director of operations, nobody appreciates him, and no one notices him until something goes wrong. There's an order that is messed up, or the hotel, there's an issue. That's a lot of coordination behind the scenes. I know everybody just thinks, hey, you show up, you play basketball, you come back home. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, there is, and he only gets problems. Only problems come to his doorstep. So he gets a little taste of what it's like to be a head coach every single day when all you get are the problems. But it's that type of stuff has to go well just so you can even get to the game and what everybody else wants to do. But all those steps and processes before that, if those aren't in order, then now it's just another distraction. So you have to be extremely organized. I did it for 7 years at SIU as the operation. We didn't have an operations position at SIU, and so one of the assistants did it, and that was me for 7 years. I did it 1 year at K-State, and it is a constant challenge, and just the logistics of everything. And once you've done it, and there's some carryover, it kind of can run itself a little bit.
Right.
But again, as soon as one thing goes wrong, the domino effect of it affecting everybody within the party is always a challenge.
And so that puts you in a unique position. Being the head coach, you have all the respect in the world for the director of basketball operations because that was your job. A lot of head coaches, they never had to go through any of that stuff.
Yeah, and I think it helps make you very well-rounded because not only that, you also are dealing with budgets. You're in a lot of those administrative meetings. And so now because at the end of the day, you have to make all those decisions as a head coach or head of a company or whatever the case may be. So the more well-rounded you are and the more that you understand the inner workings of a program and all that go into it, not just the empathy that you feel for that person and what they're going through when things don't go right, but also just from the business side of it, it really helps balance you out. And so now you can understand and you can have empathy for somebody when they're going through something, and it doesn't just become, well, why isn't the food ready? So a guy that's never understood that doesn't understand that. So it makes you, I think it makes you well-rounded and really can help alleviate a lot of problems that don't have to become bigger than what they already are.
Red Hawks basketball coach Brad Korn. We're going to be talking Red Hawk baseball a little bit later on. Coach Andy Sawyers is here. Red Hawks open down at 23rd ranked Dallas Baptist on Friday night under the lights against the Patriots. What did you think of how the crowd was into the game against Belmont on Saturday? Obviously, it's an elite opponent coming into the Show Me Center. The students were there. Everybody was into that game Saturday.
Yeah, it's very important. It's something that we've talked about a long time ago of trying to get, you talk about your mission and your vision of what you're trying to do with a program when you get a job. And, one of the things is we talk about trying to have a sold-out senior night in the Show Me Center. Now, is that, your dreams can't be so big that they're dumb and you can never attain them. I think that's something that we can get to. Obviously that's off in the distance, but that's that carrot that's out there that you're always striving for and get to. But there's a whole lot of things that have to go into the front of that. It's not just going to wake up and be that. And I think that the way that we've played, the style that we play, the way our guys play team together basketball, we have our moments obviously, but I think people are starting to see that and appreciate that and want to be a part of that. And then we've won games. We've won whatever it is, 6 out of our last 8, 5 of our last 7 at home. And so everyone wants to be associated with a winner. Everybody wants to support a good product, and I think that we're getting to that point. We're not there yet, obviously, but it is growing. If you look at the numbers, and you can feel the atmosphere changing slowly and surely. And I think our guys take that and appreciate that, and I think that's why we've been able to play and compete in the Moorhead game, in the Belmont game, and we're not just showing up and playing one game because it's big. It's a big game because we're also playing in that game.
So you play the oldest team in college basketball. They have 5 graduate students on that Belmont roster, and you're talking about a team that has had a ton of success. They've done a ton of winning, And what I thought I saw at the end of the basketball game, a team that is not only veteran but knows how to close, knows how to finish. They're down 20 in the second half at Tech. They come back, tie it at the end of regulation with a 3, and win it in overtime. They never led against Morehead State last Thursday until there were 5 seconds left in the game. They took their first lead, and they won the game. A team that knows how to close versus a team in your squad learning how to close. Is that fair?
I think it's fair. I think it's fair, and you can simulate all you want in practice and all that, but until you're in those moments, you have to learn. You have to learn through those things, and sometimes it's learning through failure, setback, loss, whatever word you want to use. But they've been in so many games. They've won 20 plus games for whatever it is, 20 years or 12 years straight.
11 straight seasons with 20 wins.
And that's hard at our level. Just because, you can look at the K-State BCS level. Well, those guys are getting 7, 8 wins in the non-con because they're buying wins and all that. So they start out and they can go 500 in their conference and still reach 20 wins. That's not necessarily the case for the OVC schools. So really impressive what they've done going back to Coach Bird. And again, you can't – there's so much to be said for what you not have to coach and teach. They are a player – program-driven team. They're not just a one guy. And so now when you have 5 guys that are 6 guys that are grad transfers, Coach Alexander can just say something and during live action, and they can get organized and get it figured out, and a guy can make a play. And they're selfless, and it makes them that much harder to guard. So it's part of it's their program. It's what they are and what they've been for years. This isn't just some 1 season or 2 seasons or Coach Alexander. This has been going on at Belmont for years and years on end. So to me, it's going to be very interesting to see how that translates to the Missouri Valley. They lose all those guys after this year, so it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out for them in the future.
I know it seems like Muzinski's been there for like 7 years, but I think the guy they'll miss the most is Grayson Murphy. I just think that guy is an awesome point guard. I mean, 2 years in a row, he's the leading rebounder in the nation among point guards, 2-time OVC Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, he is a good basketball player.
He is, and we actually, with about 3 minutes left in our game, we were going to foul him. We were in the bonus because he's a 38% free throw shooter, ironically enough. You wouldn't think a guy of his caliber would be that poor from the line. And then there wasn't a break in action to where we could get it coordinated, and then Coach Alexander got him out of there. But again, they know exactly what and who they are and where the ball needs to go in tight situations. And obviously he's a huge, huge part of that. And again, that to me, again, it's great teaching for our players and our program. We're not trying to be Belmont. We're trying to be the best version of SEMO. But if you look at the way that they play, a guy like him has his fingerprints all over that program and all over every single win, and it's not about scoring all the time. He can score the ball, he can get layups, but he does so many other things that impact the game of basketball and impact winning on such a high level. They're a great model to teach the game, and then I think our guys being able to experience and play it against them and how they do it, because you say, oh, hey, they're going to back cut you here, Eric. It's like, well, until you get out there and see the speed in which that they do pass, and when you show it on film, like, hey, watch, guys, watch these 8 clips in a row. They don't dribble. Now once that ball's moved here, now they dribble and attack because obviously the defense has shifted. But they share the basketball. They play a really good brand of basketball, which is great teaching points and lessons for us as we move forward, because you want to play that way. You don't want to play like Belmont. I'm not trying to be Belmont. I'm not trying to be Casey Alexander. But at the end of the day, basketball is basketball, and they do play it the right way.
They hit 4 of their last 5 shots in the game. You finished 1 of your last 9. Now, some of those you're firing shots there late because you're trying to hit a 3 and cut it down a little bit. But man, they're so efficient when the game is on the line.
Yeah, and that's and we've talked about it before. Even the Morehead game, they had been through. I think this is Coach Preston's 7th year, and it took them a long time learning through failure to get to those points of being able to close a tight game. And at the end of the day, they are the champion of the conference from a year ago in the conference tournament. So you look at those teams like that, they're able to close and able to finish because they've been in those situations. And it didn't just happen. It just didn't happen for Morehead. Obviously, that was a process for them to get to that point. But they made plays in our game at home because they had been in a lot of those tight games up to that point.
And I think a perfect example is Morehead knows how to close. but the two teams they just played know how to close better. They didn't. Belmont didn't lead until 5 seconds left. They win the game. Murray State at Moorhead Saturday, down 9 with 5 minutes to go, and they come back and win the basketball game. It was like one of their biggest, latest comebacks in like a decade for Murray State. They know how to close.
Yeah. And so hopefully now we've been in the Moorhead game. Obviously the Belmont game was tight. We've got 4 left. We get in those situations. Now have we done enough? Are we further along than we were early in the season? So now when we get in these, if it happens to be those games here, the 4 that we've got left in the regular season, can we find a way to close? So hopefully we're getting to that point and can do that if we're ever in that situation.
And you got a chance to make a little history. I don't think the average fan understands that it has been 22 years since SEMO men's basketball has finished higher than 5th. 22 years. Right now, you're sitting in 4th place, so you got a chance to do something that hasn't been done around here in a long time.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of those things that we've talked about after games, first time, even from a year ago. So I know that we're on the right track. That's why you feel encouraged where you're at. I texted the guys in our group chat yesterday. We were off, but I'm very encouraged about where we can go to finish the season. I know obviously it's disappointing when you lose, and we played a good basketball game, and every coach, no matter if you're coaching baseball, basketball, you always think you should be undefeated. So I feel we should have a better record. So that's that old fight between yourself of being content or being satisfied. And I think that we've had nice progress, but we're not where we need to be just yet. But I'm encouraged about where I think we can go and the way that our team is growing and evolving, and the way not just our team. And I know everyone looks at records and immediate success, but also where the progress of the program. Because at the end of the day, this program is going to be here for another 22 years long after I'm here, and this, that, and the other, whatever the case may be. And so now have you left a program to where it can sustain itself, where it can run itself, much like we talked about Belmont.
And when you look at the closing stretch here, you have to go to, you've got a tough closing stretch here. You go to Cookeville. That's always been a tough place for SEMO to win. You say, well, they're 7-19. Well, guess what? 5 of their 7 wins have come, inside the Eblin Center. You go to Moorhead. They don't lose home games, over the last 6 or 7 years. They don't lose many home games. Then you've got Murray State coming here, and they may be, trying to run their winning streak to about 18 in a row. They've won 14 in a row. So, this is a tough closing stretch, and you look at a team like Austin Peay, who's right on your tail. They got Eastern Illinois twice. They've got SIU Edwardsville. So they've got the bottom of the conference standings. Your road is a lot tougher than Austin Peay.
Yeah, it is, and that's why to me Belmont, Murray, Moorhead, UT Martin is going to be just as important as all those other games. So every game is just as important. Obviously, you rise to the occasion, or ESPNU game or whatever. Those games are obviously a little bit bigger, but win's a win. In college basketball, especially in February, late February, you take anything that you can get, especially on the road. So if we have the right attitude, the right mindset, Thursday, Saturday are going to be tough games. But again, anything is possible, especially in college basketball. And then you come home and get to finish with 2 home games, and we've put ourselves in position to do something that hasn't been done in a long time. And so now we got to go play the game. And I think we have to understand how we're going to win. You're not going to just, because you're close, you're not going to just show up and win, or just because you just lost, you're going to go win on Thursday. Like, you have to continue to do the things that have put you in this position and carry them on the road. So we're in a good spot. We're in a good position. But again, we're a long way. It's close. Like Manny Patterson, he can taste it. It's winding down. But again, there's so much basketball to be played.
Speaking of Manny Patterson, he's playing the best basketball of his Red Hawk career right now.
Yeah, I texted him after the game on Saturday, late Saturday night, just told him I was proud of him and everything that he's done. Because you want a senior to be able to go and perform and have a close the way, because he's impacting winning. And whereas we were talking about before about our program, he's impacting this program for years to come, in the future. And that's a legacy. That's what you're supposed to do as a player, as a fifth-year senior. And when he came here, everything we told him and what we wanted in a person and a player, he's doing. And so you're happy to see him have success, which obviously turns around and helps us have success. But Manny is a perfect example of what we want Red Hawk basketball to be. And it's good to see him have a strong close, because we need it.
It's not an excuse. It's just a fact that you had to play without 4 players in the Edwardsville game, so you only have 7 players available. You get 2 back, but they haven't been practicing. They're rusty. It's 3 straight games now without Chris Harris. He certainly would have impacted that game. Nana Kenton came back clearly rusty, not being able to practice, and I think Nana 0 for 4. He led you in rebounding with 7, so he was impacting the basketball game. It's a tough time where you had to not go into a gunfight with all your bullets.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Really is, and it's unfortunate because it hurts the kids more than anything, and that's what's the downside of the whole thing. And I'm not going to get into anything else like that because I like my job, so I want to keep it. But it does. You look at Eric Reed, even he came back. He's 0 for 9 against Austin Peay. Nana's 0 for 4. It's like, well, these are our best shooters.
He has never had an 0 for 9 game in his career.
Yeah, and DQ was 0 for 3 or 4 against Belmont or whatever. Yeah. And he was shooting 50% almost from both field and from 3. So it's like you said, they're not excuses. But it is reality when a guy, Chris Harris, for instance, didn't see him for a whole week, and so it's not fair to put him into a game and he hasn't even practiced. It's not
for
fair.
For those who don't know, they saw him in street clothes on the bench. Yeah. He had just come out of protocol, so it's not an injury. But you're saying it's not fair. He hadn't practiced in a week.
Yeah, and it's like I told him that shooter. That was the first time I had seen him in a few days, and it's just like, hey, this isn't fair to you as a human being to just throw you out there and expect you to go play. There could have been a situation where emergency we could have put him in, but again, that's not. He has to get his body back right and wind back, and so today at workouts he's working hard on that, and so I fully anticipate him to be ready to go on Thursday.
So knock on wood, you anticipate, unless something happens, a potential full roster. Obviously Nate Johnson is out on Thursday at Tennessee Tech. There's a good chance you'll have a full roster?
There's a good chance we'll have a full roster, but it's just like spring weather. I guess it could change at any moment. So,
one thing to keep in mind here now, for fans who like offense, they saw it on Saturday. Belmont's the number 1 scoring team in the league. You are number 3. Well, the team you play on Thursday, Tennessee Tech, is right behind you at number 4. These are 2 of the OVC's best offenses going at each other in Cookeville, Tennessee.
Yeah, and hopefully we haven't been great offensively the last 5. I just looked at our last 5 statistics because I think that gives you a good snapshot of where you're at. Obviously, you see the totality and the record and stats of all games, but really the last 5 is kind of who you are at that moment. And we've had some guys out, as we just talked about, but our offense hasn't been clicking as well of late. Again, part of that, Eric Reed for Nana not being out there, Chris not being out there, that obviously puts a lot of more pressure on other guys, and they have to take a lot more shots. And so percentages are naturally going to dip a little bit, especially as you get into late February. But I think this week of practice obviously is very, very important to get some of that timing and some of that rhythm back for everybody to be in the gym at the same time. So we've been a good offensive team. We've gotten to the foul line. We're -6 in those last 5 games from assist turnover standpoint. So we've got to get back to assisting a little bit more, getting to the foul line, converting in transition, all the little parts that's how you become a good offensive team. You're not a good offensive team because you just shoot a bunch of threes and make a bunch of threes. Belmont, perfect example. Can you get to the foul line? Can you steal layups? Can you score on BOBs? Can you add 12 to 15 points that aren't accounted for in the half-court offense? Now that just adds, you go from averaging 65 points to 80 points a game because you're able to add in 15 extra points to special teams, if you will, of basketball. So we've got to get it back to a little bit of that and take care of the basketball a little bit more. And we didn't do that against Belmont. 16 turnovers, far too many against a team of that caliber. We turned them over 16 times, but we can't have that many turnovers. We have to get shots on goal.
And, you look at the first half. At halftime, you have outscored them in the paint 16-14. You're attacking like you normally do. You've shot more free throws than any team in the league, and it's not that close. You're good at attacking and getting to the free throw line. How surprised were you that you only got 1 free throw attempt in the first half?
Not at all.
Okay. Well, I was asking.
I've been around long enough to understand just not surprised.
Yeah, I was talking with Jeff Hansa in strategic communications, and I said it's probably hard to research. I can't prove it, but I would bet you there is no game that you have played this year where you did not make a free throw in a half of basketball. You were 0 for 1.
Yeah. I would.
Can you think of any half of basketball where you didn't have a free throw?
No, not really. I think maybe one time, and I don't even know. I don't think I was there. I think I was at Missouri State. I think one time at K-State, Coach Weber, one of his teams, I think went maybe a whole game without making a free throw.
Wow.
And you're talking about not being. Now, if you don't shoot for a whole game, you're not scoring. You're probably not winning if you can't get to the foul line. So it's a very important part of basketball. It's an important part of our offense. Because, again, the way that we play, and we do shoot threes, but I don't think we're necessarily as live and die by the three as most three-point shooting teams are, because we're able to get to the foul line.
So, what are the keys here? We're going to talk baseball here in a couple of minutes. What are the things that you have to do to go to the Eblin Center and win this game against Tennessee Tech? Huge game.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, defense has to travel. We had Belmont got 81, and we didn't have a particularly great game against Austin P defensively, but in those last 5 that I've talked about, we're holding opponents to 68 points a game, which is okay. That's pretty solid.
Keep in mind, Belmont scored 102 against you the first time, so you did a much better job.
Yeah. If we would have done worse, it wouldn't be as. Yeah. Anyway, that was pretty bad. But our defense has to travel. We have to be able to keep them out of the paint. Obviously, they're a good offensive team in the league, and so it's going to be a battle of defenses, whichever one shows up more consistently. And then we've got to rebound. We have to rebound, and we have to take care of the basketball. I think our shooting will come around. We're good shooters. We're good offensive players. We have a good offensive scheme, but we have got to take care of the basketball offensively. And by taking care of the basketball, that obviously you're limiting turnovers, which means more shots on goal, which then means more points, which now makes you harder to guard, which opens up driving angles and avenues for us to get to the foul line. So we have to take care of the basketball offensively, and then we can't allow easy twos on defense. If we get dominated by twos, it's going to make the game hard for us to win on the road.
It's going to be in Cookeville, Tennessee, 7:30 on Thursday night, and then it's off to Morehead State. Coach, thanks so much for the time. Best of luck on this road trip, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Eric.
Coach Brad Korn. We'll take a timeout. We're going to be talking Red Hawks baseball. Andy Sawyers, the reigning OVC Coach of the Year, is here. We'll talk it over with Coach Sawyers when we come back. Red Hawks Coaches Show from Wings Etc. on SEMO ESPN. Jackson. Don't forget, we'll be in Cape Girardeau next week, 12 noon, and we'll be talking Red Hawks hoops with Coach Brad Korn. We're going to talk the other round ball right now. SEMO baseball coach Andy Sawyers is here. Are you ready for the season to get going?
We're ready. We're ready to get away from the snow and ice and go to Dallas and get a little better baseball weather.
I don't know if it's more the players kind of like being picked number one in the OVC, the preseason poll. I don't know if the coaches give it much mind unless you're voted lower than you think you should, and you can use it as kind of a motivating factor for your players. But what were your thoughts and the players' thoughts? Have everybody said, hey, we think SEMO's the best team?
I think a lot of that is just based on where you finished the year before. And, I told our guys, certainly we're proud of what we did a year ago, and us being picked to win the league is probably a function of you guys winning a championship last year. But 2022 is a different season than 2021, and you can really revel in that and talk about it, but all that stuff is going to stop mattering on next Friday, and it's all about what we do in 22. And so I think they appreciate it, but hopefully we have a veteran enough group of guys that have enough savvy and knowledge that they're not buying too much into preseason rankings.
You really don't know from year to year who's coming back and how veteran a team. You may have a big senior class, and so you got to replace a lot of guys. I don't think most people thought Tyler Wilbur would be back. They thought he'd be playing pro ball. He's the best shortstop in the conference. 2 regular season batting titles. I don't know. The OVC would have to research it if anyone has ever won 3 batting championships in the Ohio Valley Conference. But how excited are you to have him back? Did you think – because he even went through seniors ceremonies, even though he was a junior, because it was just thought, well, he's going to go be a pro.
Nobody's happier than me that Tyler's back. He's different this year too. Last year, he had 3 separate injuries. He had to have 3 different PRP injections. He had one in his shoulder, one in his hip, and one in his wrist. So he led the league in hitting, pretty significantly dinged a year ago. He didn't play all fall. He had the PRP in all 3 of those spots, and it just began to hit, this January. I should know, but when you see somebody every day, you're not always aware. I was shocked at how much better his bat speed was in January than it would have been a year ago. I think he was more affected last year than I knew. He is slugging right now at a level he has never done for us. We, I think, had 6 scrimmages outside. We've had 5 scrimmages outside. We've had some bad weather and went to our indoor facility for some live work. But in the 5 scrimmages, I think he's hit 3 home runs already this year, which is a rate that he's never hit the ball over the fence.
Yeah.
I think in last year he played with the burden of being hurt and with the aspirations of professional baseball that we all thought he was going to get. And, like there's a lot of things in life you don't control. We certainly don't control the draft. He didn't get picked. I think what we're getting is a different version of Tyler Wilbur. He's more relaxed. He's having more fun. He's kind of turned into Boz was the practical joker of the team. Boz ran all of that. And with Connor graduating, Wilbur's become that guy, which I never saw that side. He was very professional and very meticulous, but now he's having fun and he's joking and laughing more. And I think we're seeing we'll get a different him this year. He's the professional baseball. He's not living and dying with it. I think he's healthy from a swing standpoint. He's not really running great, but I've also told him, I was like, listen, old man, I don't care if you run hard on a ground ball to the shortstop. I need you in the lineup 56 times. And so he's not really – if you watched him play, you'd think he wasn't hustling. This is a guy who's got 2 different lower half injuries, and he's going to manage it as best he can. His job's to hit doubles. And so if he's not, flying around the base paths. But his swing is good right now, and he's having a lot of fun, and he's relaxed. I think we'll get the best year we've ever gotten out of him from an offensive production standpoint.
So you're saying the best baseball player in the league is better?
Significantly better. Our players are like, Coach, he did not hit the ball this hard last year. I said, I know. He was hurt. He had a torn tendon in his wrist. He's better. So, yeah, we're pretty excited about him. It's a big one to have him back.
Boy, and, we know he's a doubles machine, but if he starts hitting the ball out of the ballpark, he had 6 home runs last year. Do you think that is one of the reasons he didn't get drafted at maybe they didn't think he projected with enough power to go pro?
Yeah, I think he has elite bat-to-ball skills. He's won 2 batting championships. I think they can project the power based on his frame and stuff like that. I think for him it was a combination of factors. One, he's older. And two, I really feel like when guys saw him last year early, like we had a ton of scouts bear down on him at Arkansas, he was not moving well at Arkansas. He had a labral hip issue that he played through. And if you watched him play shortstop last year, especially early, you were like, he's a nice college player, but he doesn't move very well. Early, cold weather, stuff like that. He actually played a lot better. He played a full college season, only made 9 errors. If you play shortstop for an entire season and make single-digit errors, you're playing well. But he was not moving well. And I just think a lot of guys saw him early, and they saw him not at his best, and they just kind of, it's kind of a cliche, but they wrote him down as a good college player, not a prospect. And I think if they would have been able to see the whole body of work, they might have had a different opinion.
So obviously the biggest hole from your championship team is your number one pitcher. Dylan Dodd is now a pro. Got drafted, the highest draft pick in school. Well, no, second highest.
Highest draft pick in school history.
Was he better than Joey?
1 round better. Yeah.
Okay, so the highest draft pick in school history. I'm sure that's the question you get the most. How do you replace Dylan Dodd? I don't think you can replace Dylan Dodd, but someone is going to be your number one on Friday night.
That's right. You're not going to replace Dylan Dodd, and it took Dylan 3 years to become the version of himself that he was last year. Dylan came in as a talented left-hander with a good arm, but below-average secondary pitches, could never spin a breaking ball, and just it was a 3-year process of him adding the secondary pitches to the repertoire that would make him elite. And, we're not going to have that guy, that version of him this year. We're not going to have a third-round draft pick on the mound. The guy we're going to start with opening weekend is Bryce Groces, and Bryce is a young man that has been in our program now for 4 years. Has been a guy that, while he's logged a lot of innings until the second half of last year, I would have described him as not quite realized potential. Always had a good arm, always was 90 and above, always had a sharp slider, but didn't throw enough strikes, maybe didn't have enough composure. You call go against him, error made behind him, and he'd kind of unravel a little bit. Starting for us on Tuesdays last year, halfway through the year, kind of got rolling and got going a little bit, and then finished really strong for us. If you look at his conference numbers, I think he only walked – maybe his conference-only numbers last year looked like something like 3 walks and 27 strikeouts, like really good stuff. And I remember we won the series down at Belmont, and Belmont's the only program in our league that has the major league sensors behind home plate. We've got a version we use in practice, but it doesn't work in games. But they've got like the major league stuff that measures all the in-game data. And I remember their pitching coach telling me after, he's like, that Groces kid that you threw in like the 7th inning of Game 3, like he has 2 above-average big league pitches. And I was like, well, yeah, I know, but you also don't see him when he, hits the guy in the head 2 batters in a row either. He took last year, grew with it, developed confidence, came out all fall, was probably our best guy in the fall, but wasn't pitching great from my perspective, because in a fall you're going to be limited to shorter outings, right? It's a scrimmage, maybe a starting pitcher would get 3 innings or 4 innings, and he was beating guys with stuff, and I could tell he felt good about himself. He's pretty puffed up and shoulders back and chest out. And I was like, hey, buddy, how many pitches you throw in your 3? I know you didn't have any runs. But he's like, 62. I said, so if you start, you're out of the game in the 5th. I said, I'm not going to start you on Friday if that's how it works. But I'm going to have to go to the bullpen in the 6th inning in a Friday game, in a 2-1 game. And we're going to lose the series because I'm going to have to play all my cards on Friday to navigate that game. If you want to be the guy that you want to be, you've got to throw strikes at a higher rate and be more efficient. And he looked at me and he said, yes, sir. And from that point on, he has thrown his fastball at a 73% strike percentage. He's always had great command of the breaking ball. He's actually thrown the breaking ball for a strike at a higher rate than the fastball throughout his career. But he has become a significantly improved strike thrower. He's able to pitch off the fastball for the first time through the order, which before we always had to spin. Like you remember last year, he would throw a curveball the first pitch of the game,
right?
Because that was the pitch he had the best command of. That's great, but that's a reliever profile. That's what relievers do, is come in and spin to win immediately. Well, Bryce is now beginning to pitch like a starting pitcher. He can get through the order with just his fastball the first time through the order. He's throwing strikes at a higher rate. He's becoming more efficient. The mantra of on or out in 3, he's able to do instead of using 9 pitches to either strike somebody out or walk somebody. And so he is now pitching like a starting pitcher. He's been fantastic. He deserves the opening day start. He's going to get game 1 against Dallas Baptist. And I've told our guys we have more uncertainty in our rotation than we've ever had, at least for me, for the last probably 5 years. I don't think the season's going to end where we start, but I feel good about the guys we have in the roles at the beginning, and Bryce certainly deserves that opportunity to go game 1.
What are the names that we will see Saturday and Sunday?
Noah Nisnik will go on Saturday, and then Austin Williams, our closer, is going to start on Sunday for us as of right now. Noah Znisnik for 2.5 years was really the best starter in our program. I mean, he was better than Dylan Dodd for 2.5 years. Noah had the 4th best ERA in our league as a true freshman, and then was off to a great sophomore start the COVID year. And then last year was really good the first third of the season. Remember that he had a really good start at Arkansas, pitched deep into that game and threw well, dominated a good Illinois State team for a complete game. He was really good early the first third of the season. And then for the first time in his life, he struggled. He lost command. He wobbled mentally. He kind of lost some focus and belief in himself, and he really began to search last year. And honestly, he was unusable down the stretch. He didn't throw a pitch in the OVC tournament. Yep. And that's a guy that has as much credentials and street cred as anybody we've got on our team, and he just kind of lost it. And he's working his way back. I think he's close, but not as if you remember his great outings from his freshman year, Eric, he was a master just pitch executor. Like, he'd hit a spot 18 pitches in a row, have a bad miss, and then start executing again. And he wasn't that way the second half of last year. He's not at that level of pitch execution yet that he was as a freshman and a sophomore, but it's significantly improved. And, so Noah will go on Saturday. And then Austin Williams, our closer from a year ago as a senior, he really wanted a chance to start, has really worked his fanny off, has improved himself in area of his game. Early on in his career, I don't know if he really went about his business super professionally. Small town kid, kind of relied on talent and a good arm. And, man, he's really
He was as dependable a pitcher as you had late in the season.
100%. And he really wanted a chance to start, and I really want to reward him for his hard work and his diligence through the offseason in the summer. And, who knows how it's going to finish up. His stuff may play better out of the bullpen. He may see him back closing games for us, but he certainly deserves this opportunity. And our whole team's excited for him. He's going to have a chance to start this weekend.
1-run game in the 9th inning Friday night. Who pitches?
Kyle Miller.
All right. Mr. Clutch from the OVC tournament. How impressive was he last year, especially in big spots where you were the player he knew that you had total confidence in?
What a great story if you think about, a freshman year. We actually met with all of our freshmen over the weekend, and we tried to prepare them for how hard a freshman year can be.
A non-scholarship freshman, mind you.
Yeah. So we had all our freshmen come in, and we had 3 different freshmen come in, or sophomores come in and talk about their freshman year. We had a freshman who redshirted and never traveled. We had a freshman that did travel but didn't play well. And then we had Kyle Miller talk, and he played well, right? And so you think about how hard it is going to be a superstar in high school to maybe redshirting at the Division I level or not having a prime role or being the guy. And there's a lot of baggage that comes with that, doubt and maybe, loss of confidence and got to make the right decision. Should I go here? Should I go to junior college? Things like that. And so we kind of met with our freshmen and let them talk about their freshman year. And I kind of set it up for here's this guy, here was his experience. You think about Kyle Miller. As a true freshman walk-on, he got a save in the first game of the season. So we trusted him with the ball in the 9th inning of game 1. He struck out the side to beat a good South Alabama team. And then he bookended that freshman year with a complete game start in the OVC tournament to get us to the NC2A tournament. What a year. That's a freshman year for the ages. And for him, it's not about stuff. It's not that he is extraordinarily gifted. What separates Kyle Miller is an elite mindset. He is confident and he's cocky, but it's not outwardly. He's very stoic and a very cool demeanor, but inside he is a savage. He thinks he's better than you. He would like to humiliate you. He is extraordinarily competitive and not in a demonstrative way. He just thinks he's the best guy on the field, and he is determined to show you. And his stuff, realistically, it's 86, 88, which is average by Division I baseball standards. But what is not average is that young man's confidence and belief in himself. He thinks he's the best guy out there. And you'd be shocked how many times in life your mindset and your attitude make the difference. And he's got a good one in spades.
So Wade Stouse, your catcher, your home run leader, still had another year of eligibility, but he's playing pro ball now. Who's a guy maybe that is going to hit the ball out of the ballpark for you?
I think we're going to have multiple guys that are going to hit a lot more home runs than they have in years past. I think Tyler Wilbur leads the charge. I think he's going to hit 10 to 15. Andrew Keck is a guy that has never kept it together from a slugging percentage standpoint. He's a guy that's gotten hits and hit for average. But for a big guy, he's 6'3", he's 225 pounds. He does have home run power. but has never kept it together for the full season.
Early in the season last year, he was hitting the ball out of the ballpark.
He was. Well, I think he's going to do it this year. I mean, he's obviously a year older, more mature, more experienced. I think he has the ability to keep a swing together for longer periods of time. I think he's going to slug at a significantly high level. Javon Mason is a guy with power that only hit 2 home runs for us last year. I think you'll see more slugging percentage from him. And then we have a couple junior college All-Americans they're going to factor in. We had a kid named Josh Cameron who hit 24 home runs at Butler County a year ago, second in the country Division I junior college in home runs. And then Joel Vasky is a newcomer that hit 15 home runs at Kirkwood Community College in Iowa. Those 2 new guys are going to factor into the outfield and slug. And then Lincoln Andrews, our first baseman. Lincoln Andrews last year's freshman year didn't hit a ton of home runs, hit a big one in the OVC tournament.
He hit a monster home run in the tournament.
He was more of a doubles guy as a freshman. I think sometimes hitting home runs is not always about strength. It's knowing which pitch to go for. Everybody wants to go hit the fastball, but realistically the curveball or off-speed pitches are easier to pull in the air. And I think that just takes time to know when to go for it, when to take your knock. And I think Lincoln is gonna have increased production from that standpoint as well.
Well, who's going to play center field this year? You lost a fabulous center fielder in Danny Wright.
We've got 2 guys that can do the job, and depending on the lineup configuration, they both might start games in center field. One is Brett Graber. Brett's an outfielder, was with our team last year, played limited, but I'm looking at your stats right now. He hit 368 in only 20 at-bats. So when he did get his opportunity, he performed well, but wasn't going to play center field in front of Danny Wright, and was kind of a role player for us. We'd use him as a pinch runner, pinch bunter type of thing. He's a young man that sometimes what a difference a year can make in terms of confidence and strength. And he's dedicated himself in the weight room. He's become a more physical player, and is night and day difference. If you hung out with him and you didn't get to be around the team as much last year as you normally do, like in the bus and in the hotel and things like that, he's a guy that I thought, he might be scared of his shadow. He was not a super confident kid. Not that he wasn't a good kid, but he didn't carry himself, super confidently. I mean, what a difference a year's made for him. He played great all fall, carries himself much better. He's got his, chin up and his shoulders back, and he thinks he deserves to be at the Division I level. He has played very well. He'll probably start opening night in center field. And then Josh Cameron, the young man I previously referenced from Butler County, he's a special player, Eric. He can really run. He's got juice. He can throw well. He plays really hard. He's got a huge chip on his shoulder. He's that guy that at some point in the year, he's probably going to try to fight somebody, and it might be on our team, on the other team. But, he has got a chip on his shoulder. We had a thing in the fall where –
Do you like that?
I do. You don't have as much of that anymore. But we had a thing in the fall where he had a single to center field. Outfielder overthrew the cutoff man. He takes second base on the overthrow. And in the fall, when we scrimmage, you have a pitcher umpiring. And overthrow the cutoff man, the third baseman, Lieber, picks it up on a short hop and makes a pretty athletic play to get the ball to second base to make it close. But Cameron is safe at second. Well, our pitcher in the middle of the diamond, I don't think he's looking. He's spun around because the play's going around him, and he calls him out. And he stands up and takes 3 steps at the pitcher umpiring, and I start moving because I think he's going to go get him. And, he caught himself and, walked to the dugout because I think he figured out that wasn't a good idea to go beat this kid up. But he that's how his motor runs. It runs hot. And, sometimes you maybe don't want a whole roster full of guys like that because you might worry about them. But it's sure nice to have a couple, right? There are a couple of them can season that whole loaf. And I like him, man. He's a fun kid. He's fiery. He's emotional. He says some really off-the-wall things in the dugout at times and keeps everybody loose and laughing. But I tell you what, it burns really hot in him, and he's a fiery competitor, and I'm sure excited about him.
How about Peyton Lieber? Because he is a very interesting player. I don't think there is a third baseman in our conference that has a better arm. He is a tremendous defender. Is this the year that he takes a step forward offensively?
Man, I sure hope so. I hope so. Peyton can do everything necessary to be a good player in every aspect of the game. He's a good athlete. He runs well. He's a superb defender. He's as tough as they come. He's gritty. He's grimy. He cares about the team. He has not yet had offensive success, and that's not due to lack of talent. It's just it hasn't. His physical tools have not translated to offensive production yet. He's strong. He has enough bat speed. He's a switch hitter. It just hasn't happened yet, and I really, he's a guy that, man, everybody roots for. I certainly hope that this is the year where he has the breakthrough offensive season. Yeah.
Is it fair to say that he's got a better arm than some of your pitchers?
Yeah. So talk about guys with confidence and body language. I don't know if you know this, but his freshman year, when we do our Fall World Series, we let the players kind of run the teams. They closed him the last game of the Fall World Series, and he won. They put him in the game over a couple pitchers they had left.
Well, you had an outfielder a couple of years ago you turned into a pitcher.
Yeah, Keegan Mine. He had a big arm. He was 90-92. Yeah, but no, Peyton Lieber, he strikes with a slider. I went and saw him play a high school playoff game when he was in high school. We'd already signed him, but I went and watched him play. And he threw a 1-0 shutout and scored the game's only run. So he's a good player in every aspect of the game.
Yes, he is. All right, Lincoln Andrews, DH, first base. He kind of in and out. What's the first base / DH role going to look like?
Realistically, Lincoln's going to play first base every day as long as he hits. He's significantly better at first base than he was a year ago. Last year he DH'd the first half of the year, and then he kind of transitioned into playing first base, and then Danny Sperling kind of became our DH down the stretch run. Lincoln he's going to look different when you see him this year. He's really tightened up the body. He's worked very hard on his diet. He's firmer. He's stronger. He's more athletic. He's picking more balls in the dirt, which wasn't a strength a year ago. He's really worked hard on his athleticism and his body. He's going to play first base. I think a new guy that you're really going to like is Ben Palmer. Ben Palmer won the Junior College Gold Glove Award winner at the shortstop position. So, he's the best, supposedly the best junior college shortstop in the country defensively a year ago. Played at Iowa Western Community College, probably one of the top 5 junior colleges in the country. He can really defend. He can run. He's also 6'2" and 190 pounds. Like, he's an intriguing guy. He hit 2 triples in our last scrimmage. Like, he's got a little snap in the bat. He's a guy that walked on to his junior college team. He was 6'2" and 150. And just this skinny, weak kid from Minneapolis, Minnesota that was good at baseball but wasn't strong at all. Threw it probably 80 miles an hour across the diamond, didn't have arm strength, but he's a great athlete. He can really defend, and as he's gotten stronger, he's really blossomed, and he's gained 15 pounds for us this fall. He's probably close to 190 right now, so he's a good-looking kid. I think you're going to see a lot of him. He can play second, short, and third.
Yeah, no opening at shortstop on this team.
We have talked about if it's in Tyler's best interest for a health standpoint, we could have him play some at second and some at third. But that's, like I said, he kind of had the labral hip issue last year, and also he's got a condition with his groin that I can't even pronounce. He's got, it's like not a sports hernia, but an issue down there. So like if better on his body, we could move him around a little bit. But certainly to start the year, Tyler Wilbur's our shortstop. And
we mentioned Wade Stouse, your starting catcher and home run leader. What are we going to see behind the plate, Coach?
Andrew Keck was, I always said we had 1A and 1B when we had Wade and then Andrew Keck as our backup. Andrew was so athletic. He led our team in stolen bases last year. He was so athletic as a catcher, we could move him to the outfield. So last year he started more games in right than he did behind the plate. Andrew will move back behind the plate this year to be our full-time catcher. And then, kind of behind him, you've got Ty Stouse, Wade's little brother. And then you have a junior college transfer named Wyatt Grant from Seward County out in Kansas. And so those are probably 2 and 3 behind Andrew.
I would like to see, if he leads the OVC in stolen bases again, how many catchers lead a Division I conference in stolen bases, because you count them on probably 2 fingers.
Yeah, he's he's an interesting guy. It's not just foot speed with him. He's really aggressive, and he's really confident, and he's fearless. Every now and again, he will run into a really, really bad out. And when young people run into a really, really bad out, sometimes they kind of takes the starch out of them a little bit. But not Andrew. He wants to keep going. So he is not afraid out there.
And he's a tough guy, and I know that because you see when guys have oblique injuries, they're out for weeks, right? You see big league players, they get an oblique injury, man, you're not going to see him for a month at least. He had an oblique injury on a check swing in the OVC tournament and kept playing and delivering. I think he got a double in that at bat where he injured his oblique.
He did. He had a backside double to drive in, I think, the game-winning run. He didn't play all summer, and he did not play all summer, and then he couldn't swing all fall
because of the oblique.
Because of that injury. But he played our season. He didn't miss a game. So yeah, he's a tough one.
All right. boy, you're not easing your way into the season. The 23rd ranked team in the country. I think they won 41 ball games last year. They won the Missouri Valley Conference regular season, the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. I think they've been to 7 straight regionals. This is a big-time program you're playing. For those who have never heard of Dallas Baptist, the only sport they play Division I is baseball. I think they're an NAIA and all the other sports. So that may be why some people may not have heard of Dallas Baptist. Anybody in college baseball knows exactly who the Patriots are.
I think they're the best non-Power 5 job in the country. I think, Dan Hefner, their head coach, is an amazing man. He does a great job. He's been there a long time. They've got great continuity in their system and their plan. He is a great hitting coach. They're in the middle of Dallas, a good city to recruit to, and they play in a really offensive yard, so they recruit guys to hit home runs, and he's a good hitting coach. So it's a system that now it's kind of feeding itself. They're recruiting a specific type of player to play in their ballpark, and their guy is really good at teaching guys how to elevate the baseball, and they are an offensive juggernaut. They're one of only 3 Division I teams in the country to hit 100 home runs last year. They're very offensive. I think you're going to be stunned at how nice their facilities are.
I've seen pictures. I went online to specifically look at it.
I think it's the best non-Power 5 job in the country. They've built them an SEC caliber stadium, but smaller. It's just an amazing situation, and in the middle of Dallas, a good place to recruit to. Obviously, you take games. There's other considerations, financial and weather and things like that, but playing at Dallas Baptist, I was excited for our kids because I knew we'd have an older team, but I think they're the best mid-major-ish, if you'd call it. They're the best mid-major situation in the country right now. And so, I wanted our guys to see this is what the best people of our group is. How good are we? How do we measure up? How does our program at this point compare to their program at this point? Can we go down there and compete with them? And if we go down there and it doesn't go our way in terms of the final score, man, we've measured ourselves against the best and hopefully learn some lessons and some things to do better. But our guys know how good they are, and we're very excited about this series.
And I know you're excited about the 10-hour bus ride.
We had a bus ride to Mobile last year through that ice storm that I'm just very
That was brutal.
I'm glad we're not repeating that.
Wow. And all that snow was melted on our way home.
Yeah. We got stuck at the gas station. We had to get all the boys off the bus at the gas station and try to get the bus moving because we got stranded. Because
of COVID, I had to travel separate. I got stuck in a gas station parking lot, and these kids are driving by on 4-wheelers like, hold on, we'll push you out.
Yeah.
That was a little brutal. All right, you're leaving Thursday morning, headed down to Dallas, Texas. Can't wait for Red Hawk baseball to get here. And one more thing. I know we run over time here, but the chairback seats at Capitol Hall, how about that? Cindy Gannon said, hey, I know those chairbacks at Houck Stadium, since they're tearing it down, what are you going to do with those chairbacks? Well, now they're sitting at Capitol Hall Field.
Yeah, and they're red, too. I like that. Get a little more red in that stadium.
Kind of cool, though, right?
It is. We're excited about it.
All right, Coach, thanks so much for the time, and we'll see you Thursday as we go to Dallas.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, Coach Andy Sawyers, Red Hawks baseball. That's Under the Lights in Dallas, 6:30 on Friday night. Stay tuned. We've got ESPN Radio coming up for you. Thanks to Coach Brad Korn and Coach Sawyers, Ethan Chow, Rachel Cook, our engineers on site. So long, everybody, from Wings.